Hello and welcome to What People Do. This is the show for people who want to be more successful and happy in their career. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we live and work and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Sean Croon. I'm a career coach and reform recruiter. And in each episode of What People Do, I interview experts to explore new career options and share tips, strategies and tactics on how people can move their career forward. So if you'd like some other job seeking or career development resources, you can check out our website, cvwriters.com.au. So today's episode is Learn What Mindfulness Mentors Do with our guest expert, Nathalie Heynderickx. So great to have you on the show. Thank you, Nat.
Pleasure. Delighted to be here, Sean.
Thank you. Great. So Nat has been practicing mindfulness for over 15 years with 5 years experience as a mindfulness mentor through her own practice, Zen High Achiever. So Zen High Achiever helps technology leaders to reach their full professional potential and spiritual growth through mindfulness mentoring, well-being and executive coaching. Nat also has 20 years of corporate experience working for global consultancies, including EY, IBM and Accenture. And finally, Nat is also a lecturer on positive psychology at Monash University. So really privileged and honored to have you on the show, Nat. I actually, for full disclosure, Nat was worked for us at CV Writers as a CV writer, and she's also, I'm actually doing her mindfulness program at the moment, which I found is absolutely fantastic, hence why I'm really excited to have her on the show and know how good she is. So thanks again, Nat.
Pleasure.
Cool. So, and just as a reminder for everyone out there, one of the benefits, this is a live interview, if you are watching it live, is an opportunity for you to ask questions. So I highly encourage you to engage, ask questions, leave your feedback. And if you do ask a question that's not appropriate at that time, don't worry, we'll address it, but we'll be doing a Q&A session at the end. And if you're watching a recorded version of this or listening to a recorded version, please send me or Nat a private message and we'll address your questions. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's start today's episode. So to start things off, Nat, can you just give us an overview of what is mindfulness?
Of course, I would expect this question, right? So I like to define mindfulness, Sean, as a superpower. I think that's a good short answer. It really depends on who you're speaking with. Different people have different definitions of what mindfulness is, depending on the context. A definition that I particularly like, in addition to being a superpower, is mindfulness is a combination of three skills. It's a mental state and combine three skills. So the first one being presence, second one being focus and awareness. So presence is about being present with whatever you are doing, or whoever you are with whatever task you have in hands. So that's the presence component. Then a focus element is about being able to dedicate your undivided attention to whatever you're doing, whoever you are with, or whatever you are doing. And the last one, awareness, we can break down into internal awareness and external awareness. So internal awareness about the mental events, your emotions, thoughts, memories, what's happening within, and then awareness of what's happening around you in your surroundings as well. So presence, focus, and awareness. That's how I like to define. Now, if we go with the more traditional, definitions from, well-known scholars like, John Kabat-Zinn and Alan Wallace, their definitions are around being able to sustain attention to an object without being distracted, or being present and in a non-judgmental way. So those are the definitions that we have more traditionally out there. Is that helpful?
So yeah, absolutely. So mindfulness is a superpower. So is it a skill? Is that yeah?
I would say so, especially with the VUCA world. You're probably familiar with that VUCA acronym, which is stands for volatility, uncertainty, changing, and can't remember the last two, but it's a classical example. Is a COVID situation that we have right now: ambiguity and complexity. That's it. So in a VUCA world, more and more being able to be mindful, to have a focused, calm, and clear mind is a superpower. I personally think so. Yeah.
Hmm. Cool. And what is a mindfulness mentor?
Well, maybe it's probably. I hope it's useful to outline what is a mentor in general. So I see mentors as people who have, the skills, the knowledge in a particular context or field, and are able to advise people who are maybe slightly behind, in that journey. So a mindfulness mentor is someone who has a solid, well-established mindfulness practice,
Hmm.
and is able to translate some of the concepts which are very, abstract and sometimes hard to grasp, and share with someone who wants to establish their own mindfulness practice for whatever reason. Sometimes it's well-being, related. Sometimes it's career performance related. I have, worked with people who um, um, decided to work with me for very different reasons. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, I would say mindfulness mentor is someone who has a very strong, solid practice and is able to guide someone who wants to, establish that practice as well.
Great. What does your practice look like? You said a strong
Mm,
practice. What is that?
yeah, good question. And if can you hold that question for a moment? I
Yeah.
think I wanted to complement actually your very first question about what mindfulness is, because there's a bit of a misconception on mindfulness. And as you know, Sean, based on the work that we are doing, I'm a big believer about bringing mindfulness into action,
Hmm.
mindfulness into daily life. So whenever I mention mindfulness practice, I'm referring to the more formal practice where you sit, typically people think eyes closed, sitting on a chair, on the floor, whatever it is, and watching your thoughts or watching your breath. So that's one type of mindfulness practice. And we have also the informal one, which is mindfulness in action. So right now I'm being, fully mindful with you. I have my undivided attention to the conversation we are having. So yeah, I think that's an important concept for people to keep in mind, that we have formal and informal practice. And the formal practice where we are sitting, it's the purpose is really to build those skills of attentional skills and bring into daily life, because that's really the ultimate goal. Yeah. Now, shall I answer your question about my personal? So
Yes.
my how my practice looks like. To be honest, it varies. What is non-negotiable is that every day I practice. So minimum, 20 minutes every day, first thing in the morning. I try my best to be, up at 5, 6, the latest, so I can really have that quality time. Try my best to go to bed early, 9, 10 o'clock, the latest, when I can. But it really varies from time to time. Yes,
Hmm.
but typically I have, my mindfulness practice and yoga that I do every day. That is foundation of my day, and helps me to keep sane and
Hmm.
productive and present with whatever I'm doing. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
has not always been like this. As you mentioned, I have been practicing mindfulness over 15 years, and it's been
Hmm.
up and down. Maybe a good 7 years ago, when I really truly committed to the daily practice and became a non-negotiable. But before was, up and down. Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Mm,
I can attest that actually doing that practice every day is hard. It depends on the type of
mm,
person you are. Some people are amazing with routine and schedule and responsibility and sort of what that looks like. But I have found it hard, but it's been so good having you there and that accountability to be able to do it each time and talk to you about that. So that's good to know. And who are the type of people that you typically work with or benefit most from working and practicing mindfulness?
yeah, good question. Um, well, it's very diverse actually. People that I work with, and I have worked in the past. So my preference is to work really with people in technology, because of my background. As you know, I came from that background in IT, for many years, so I understand the context, and the challenge that people go through in that space. But right now I work with you know, mostly people in corporate and some small business owners as well, a few entrepreneurs. um, but yeah, I work with some very senior executives, some more junior people and typically the reason why they decided to work with me is again varies a lot, but tends to be around how to handle. They want tools and techniques to handle stress better, the high pressure roles they have. Some of them are more into the prevention side, so they want to, perhaps they can see that they're nearly experiencing burnout and want to prevent that to happen. Some have actually already gone through burnout and want to recover and avoid that to happen again. So there's the well-being aspect, and others are actually, I have someone that I'm working now that he's seeking promotion, this year, and he wants to show up better, show up with, improve his personal brand, because in the company he works, the promotion is a full-on process. He needs to get executive sponsors from, globally, blah blah blah. So very different reasons, very different people that I work with. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what are some of the other benefits of mindfulness? So reduce stress, being more present. What are some of the other benefits?
Yeah, I mean, research, I could cite research. To be honest, I don't have the fresh stats in mind, but typically the key benefits around sleep, that's a big one that often people looking for. So better quality sleep, better memory as well. Um, the One of the benefits that I think are more rewarding, and I actually wrote an article on LinkedIn about that, is the fact that you become less reactive and more responsive, to challenging situations. And may sound like a simple, thing, but if you extrapolate that to different situations in life, in personal life, professional life, so many situations where we sometimes need to make decisions under pressure in a short period of time. So being less reactive, more responsive. So better emotional intelligence, worrying less, being less fearful. So courage, and courage often translates into more confidence, and confidence, of course, has many, benefits, again, professional and personal fields. So I'm clearly biased, Sean. I would say the benefits are endless, of mindfulness practice. But the research typically talks about it can reduce and regulate blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, it helps to reduce. If you have low, it helps to increase. Same with heart health in general. So lots around well-being and performance. It's huge as well. There's a research that has shown that most of us in this day and age, we are distracted 47% of the time. So 47% of the time, you are not with me in average. And our viewers actually thinking about something else, although they are looking at the screen, which is, I think is tragicomic, because I think that means that we are missing out on life. Half of the time we are not there, because our mind is somewhere else. So we're constantly distracted. And mindfulness really help us to increase that percentage, maybe by 5, 10, 20%. And if you bring that to the context of the workplace, imagine, if you're managing a team and half of the time your marketing manager is not there, and you can make him or her to be there another 10%, imagine the results in productivity and output. Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
interesting. That's yeah. And I know the results are there, and the tools and techniques really valuable. So why did you why did you choose this path? Why did you choose this career to be a mindfulness mentor, or this career pivot, you
Mm.
could say, out of global consultancies?
Mm. Well, if I say the truth, was accidental. That was not accidental. I think, I mean, say that is my calling is too cheesy, too corny, I guess. But it was kind of organic. I think it was back 2012. I was still working on business intelligence space, data analytics space in a utilities company. And I was coming back from a retreat. I attend retreats very regularly in the last 15 years. And a friend of mine mentioned she heard about this company who was recruiting um, people who have a very strong experience in corporate and a very solid mindfulness practice. As you can imagine, back 2012, not many of those around. And she said, Ned, I think you would be perfect. And long story short, that was potential project. So I was curious. I had a chat with them, but that was just before I moved from Sydney to Melbourne. So, and I was starting a brand new role here. So, no way I could ask, to just disappear in my very first month to do like this mindfulness thing. So, it didn't happen. And then in 2014, I managed to, on my leave, to go attend a training with them and became accredited trainer. So, potential project, they are leaders actually in leadership development programs based on mindfulness. So they used to be based in Denmark, and now the headquarters in New York. So I became a trainer with them, and after doing that 1 year, just part time. So I was still working on my day job in IT, 4 days a week, and 1 day a week I was, teaching mindfulness in blue chip large clients, and I like it so much. Then I was like, wow, actually I want to do this. My passion for BI was already decreasing. Um, I usually say that my passion for processes and systems it started to decrease, and the more senior I became, the more interested I was in human behavior, and dynamics, among people. So that was very attractive for me to work in that space. And yeah, and then after doing that for 1 year, I decided to take a sabbatical. So I took a 1 year career break, which was in my bucket list for a long time. And then after the break, I bought a bullet and took the leap of faith and decided to do that full time. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm.
So, what kind of skills and qualifications or certifications do you need to be a good mindfulness mentor?
Mm. Yeah, certifications, qualifications. I would say the ones that are market, like very well known in the, I guess, globally speaking. The most traditional one is MBSR. So, but that's more focused on well-being. So, mindfulness-based stress reduction, which was a program, 8 weeks program created by John Kabat-Zinn, one of the big names in mindfulness. So that's a more traditional one. A more recent one is the program from Search Inside Yourself, which was designed by a former software engineer from Google. So that's quite popular these days. However, I feel that it's a bit short program, and I believe people will need to have a solid practice before, because they really help with translating the teachings in a secular language, which is well absorbed by people who don't have any experience with mindfulness before. So Search Inside Yourself is a good one. And of course, the one from Potential Project that I'm again biased, because it's a company that I'm still associated with, and I'm very, very aligned with the values, the mission. It's a beautiful organization. I'm friends with the MD, and appreciate a lot the work that they are doing in the world. Yeah, but those are the certifications I recommend. Maybe MBSR, Search Inside Yourself, or Potential Project. Mm.
Okay, fantastic. And to any of our listeners and viewers, if you've got any questions, we welcome them. So, any questions, feedback, comments, please just send them through. Great. And in terms of sort of what you need to be a mindfulness mentor, actually, let's take a step back. What do you need to be mindful? What does that path look like to get there? Can you sort of paint a picture of what that
Mm.
looks like, or maybe give me examples or something
Mm.
of that journey for someone?
Yeah, I guess well, two things that come to my mind. One is discipline and effort, but that's, as you know, Sean, to establish the practice and just keep showing up, even though there are challenges and time, constraints and so on. But the other thing that comes to my mind is It's if we don't go there by love, we go there by pain. The two motivations in life, right? I mean, we usually we change due to there's a wake up call, or you're really, really passionate about something. So it needs to be one or the other. So um, I would say the motivation is some people they really unfortunately to have they are the reactive no type. In order to establish a practice, they need to have had an issue like a burnout experience, or losing a loved one, or have something really negative happen in their life. They go like, okay, I need to change. This is not working. Or some people is really like, well, I have a friend who is now doing so much better after he became a mindful, and I want to do the same. Or maybe influenced by a partner, or sometimes in the organization there are programs and they get into. I have one a person that I worked with. She attended one of my programs, the very first program actually, back in 2014. She's a solution architect at a utilities company, and she attended our 5 weeks program. It was a group program, and her testimony is really lovely. It's on my website. She says that she came in with no expectations. She just show up and say, okay, free program, I'll join. No, sounds good. And then in terms of results that she got of the program, um, of course she became more calm, clear, and focused. But she said that she used to be distressed out in her marriage. Now her, her husband is distressed out and she's the chilled person, so she loves that. And she also managed to get a really, really good performance review at the company, and she attributes a lot to her practice. Plus she said that she became a better parent as well, and so on. So sorry, I completely sidetracked from your question. Your question was what takes people to be mindful, right?
What it takes to be mindful, yeah.
Yeah, what it takes to be mindful. I think is the motivation. It comes back to wanting to, because and if I may use that hook, Sean, one thing that I wanted to say for whoever's listening is that I often hear people saying, I cannot do this. No, mindfulness meditation is not for me because my mind is too busy, too restless. What I say to you guys is welcome to the club. Everyone is like that. And Alan Wallace actually says, Alan Wallace is a scholar who studied with the Dalai Lama, has a PhD, blah, blah, blah. He says, knowing how chaotic is our mind is the first sign of progress in cultivating shamatha, which is no one foundational level of mindfulness. So mindfulness is available for everyone, but it takes discipline and effort. Yeah, that's it. Zip.
Nice. So, and
Mm.
and as you said, mindfulness meditation. So, to the main tool for becoming mindful is meditation practice. Is that right?
Yes, yes, what I call the formal practice, because with the mindfulness meditation practice, when you sit and you use whatever technique, based on the breath or the thoughts or awareness, you are exercising those attentional skills. You are
Mm-hmm.
literally building that muscle. And then when you get off the cushion or get off your chair and get out in the world, you are bringing those neural pathways in your brain who are able to pay attention to whatever your select object of focus. And then you can transfer those skills to daily life. So I would say mindfulness could also be defined as a mental state or a skill that you establish or consolidate when you are in the formal meditation practice, and then you bring into action, to enjoy life better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hmm.
So that's the practice, and then it becomes life. Nice. And what's the history of mindfulness? Is it, where does it come from?
Well, I mean, I think it is no secret, right? It's based on, I mean, the traditional teachings come from Siddhartha, the prince, Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, and of course, there are variations nowadays. There is a lot of controversy, very controversial nowadays. The fact that mindfulness has been um, detached from the framework that was originally taught, because one one um, one way to define mindfulness. So mindfulness used to be defined as the bird that has two wings. So the wing of wisdom and compassion. So mindfulness now, it's being almost stripped out from that framework, and we are teaching mindfulness and talking about mindfulness for pure well-being, which is great, you know, but that's it's a huge underutilization of the the potential of mindfulness. But historically, answer your question, Sean, and it comes from from the Buddha. Yeah. So he was the one. The teachings that we share, they are all in a language that it's secular, is available for everyone, regardless of their belief system. Um, but if we go through, the history, yeah, that's definitely where it comes from. Yeah. And
So
Buddha, as you
where do
know,
you?
was a Hindu. He was originally a yogi who, despite of achieving samadhi, which is a high levels of concentration, he could see that suffering was still happening, and he developed this technique, which is based on vipassana, and had those insights around impermanence and non-self. But that's a little bit probably off topic for our conversation today, maybe a little bit too far. Yeah.
Where do you see from the mindfulness as it's been packaged for, you could say, the West, I guess, for just well-being? What's that leap in between to get that compassion and wisdom? What do you see as that bridge between the original framework and where it is today?
Mm. Thank you. It's like you are asking the questions that allows me to say what I was wanting to say. Thank you. We are in flow, Sean. I think combining mindfulness with loving kindness, compassion training. So mindfulness, I like to call mind training. So that's the discipline of the body of knowledge that help us to become masters of our minds. But you can be the master of your mind and not really be interested in the greater good, right? You can use that for evil as well. You can be very, very mindful and then use that for evil forces. So combining that mind training with compassion training and wisdom, that's where vipassana comes, which is the next level of. So let me step back for a moment. So, mindfulness now in the West is really focused on well being, right? Reduce stress, chill, relax. That's great, but that's one layer of mindfulness, which is shamatha. After we manage to have a calm, focused, and clear mind, we want to go to the next level of mindfulness, which is vipassana, which is insight meditation. And that's where we grow in wisdom. So that's where we start to see reality as it is, and and realize the truth, whatever that means. Topic for maybe another a live stream. But combining mindfulness in a very ordinary way for everyday people, I would say combining mindfulness training with loving kindness training, for example, and a loving kindness meditation that you can find in you know everywhere in side timer, on YouTube, and taking once you manage to kind of master the relaxation with meditation, move to vipassana, which is the next level where you can really grow in wisdom, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about the link to compassion? Is that after the wisdom?
They are
Part?
they Yeah, it's they should be happening in parallel. Yeah, so compassion training together with mindfulness training. Yeah, so that's why I
Okay.
actually, we looked into loving kindness the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, some schools of thought also says that, and I kind of believe on that because it was my own experience. Some people say that by training yourself in mindfulness, whether you like it or not, you end up becoming more patient, more kind, um, more accepting. Not apathy, but acceptance in a good way, accepting the things that are beyond your control. So some people would say that those qualities, they are developed naturally as a byproduct of mindfulness, and that has been my own experience. But some schools of thought says that you can actually grow in mindfulness but not grow in compassion, which is it's kind of actually kind of dangerous, yeah, in a way. and not as it was traditionally taught.
Okay,
Does that make
nice.
sense?
And yeah, that does make sense to me. If anyone's got any questions, please
Mm,
fire them across to us through chat, or if you're listening in a private message over LinkedIn or Facebook or whoever that may be. So around the mindfulness, that how do you qualify if someone's serious about it, if this is the right thing for them at that time? Yeah, how do you work that out if it's, or what's the signals that would be like, this is right for you right now?
mm. Yeah, if someone is wanting to work with me to be my mentee, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and what
Or
could be the mentee, or just if someone's ready for mindfulness. Like, I know we went through a process to make sure that
mm,
it was right for me at the
mm,
time, and such. So if people are considering, is this the right thing for me, or should I be going to yoga class, or should I be doing exercise, or what should I be doing for my wellness? What are some signals
mhm,
to say that mindfulness might be the right superpower to start building?
mhm. The path for then. Yes, I would say, Sean, again, very, very biased, but I think mindfulness, it's for everyone. Everyone who has the right motivation, so and has the resilience to to persist, because some people would give up because they feel that it's just too hard and put in the too hard basket. But I have no doubt that it can benefit anyone, if anyone who has the stamina to actually to persist. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Cool. And can you recommend any tools for people that are interested in it, to let them sort of explore mindfulness a bit before, maybe they're not able to engage a mentor, or they're not sure? Are there any tools that you recommend?
Of course, yes. So I guess the popular ones were really well known, but no, not necessarily by the people who are viewing. Traditional apps, I mean, more well-known apps are Headspace. Smiley Minds has a beautiful program as well. Um, the Potential Project, we have a app. I'm pretty sure we have one version that is still free, so you can download, and it's a nice reading program. And the Potential Project has a compassion training as well, and mindfulness applied to work, which is pretty cool. There is a website from the Greater Good Science Center from Berkeley University. It's wonderful. It has many quizzes and lots of good resources in there. I highly recommend to have a look. And then Alan Wallace, Alan Wallace website. If you just go Alan Wallace, I think it's .org. Many, many resources, and he has a YouTube channel as well. Um, yeah, so looking for Alan Wallace content, John Kabat-Zinn. I would really recommend, if someone wants to do self-study, to go with the more traditional, established teachers, because unfortunately nowadays we have so many self-proclaimed, you know, coach mentors out there that not necessarily have the experience, exposure needed to guide you. So I would say just stick to the most renowned ones. And one thing that I recommended, I used to know to teach yoga for a few years when I was still working in IT, and something that I recommended to all my students who were really into deepening their meditation practices: go, and book yourself in a Vipassana retreat. So Vipassana retreats, they are free. They are available all around the world. The challenge is to find to commit, because it's a 10 days, and not many of us have issues to remove yourself from the world for 10 days, but it's free of charge. You have all the conditions that you need. They teach Vipassana from, you need absolutely no experience, and it is a really well tested program. It's been around for decades. It's non-secular, again, so it's not related to any religion. And I've done many times, and I highly recommend. So if you go Vipassana retreat, there is one in Blue Mountains here in Australia. There's one in each state: Queensland, Victoria as well. I highly recommend. Yeah, free, no, serious, and effective. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Can we maybe add some links to some of those tools into
Yeah,
the comments
Totally.
for? Yeah,
Totally. I'll
cool.
send you the
Well,
links. Yeah.
that'll be great. We'll add that into the comments for this. And you know,
Mm.
from your side to be a mindfulness mentor, what's the challenges for you in being one?
Mm. Yes, I guess there are a few. I guess one is to number one is to bring stories or analogies, examples that are relevant to the context of my mentee, the person that I'm working with, so I can bring to life those concepts, and also use a language that is again secular, and relevant for them. So translate those concepts. Some of the concepts can be very abstract, and so find ways to describe and help them to grasp those concepts. And which reminds me, one story I used to. So these there is one of my dear teachers. He's a Buddhist monk in a traditional no Thai lineage in New South Wales, and I've been attending retreat in his monastery for 15 years now. And I remember years ago, after the Q&A sessions that we have, he asked, who in the group, that's a group retreat, who in the group wanted more Q&A and who in the group wanted more practice. And I was always the one to Q&A, because my intellect, I always wanted to ask questions and know about the theory and the concepts. And the oldest students, the more mature students, they would always put a hand up for practice. And eventually, I came to realization that you know there's only so far we can go with reading, knowing, entertaining our intellect. There are things that we only would understand by practicing. So now when I go to the retreats and he asks, no, practice or Q&A, I go, practice, please. But yeah, it took me a while. Why I'm sharing that? Because you asked what is difficult, yeah, being a mentor. So I think sometimes translating concepts and helping mentees to understand things that they only can really learn by sitting. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
I mean, yeah, it's very much like that. We have an example with us. We're doing a meditation with your eyes open. It's like,
Mm.
what's going on there? This is not
Yeah.
what I've been taught or used to in any
Mm.
of the other modalities that I've studied before and such. So that was fresh to me. And I could read about it, but it's not until you do it that you understand the challenges and the benefits from it. And
Mm.
one of the
Mm.
things is actually having it open, there was less distractions, or you'd catch the distractions quicker. So you're less likely to drift off with your eyes closed. You can drift off into your thoughts, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating, and you come back, as opposed to the
Mm.
eyes open. I found that was a snap. So I agree with the theory versus practice is
Mm.
you got to do it,
Yeah.
learn it.
Just sit.
Just sit, make the time. Yeah, cool. And I mean, as a how do you make a career out of this? I mean,
Mm.
how do you actually make money and support yourself in being a mindfulness mentor? Is there anything you can share around that side of it?
I don't know. Well, okay, no, no, seriously. Something that I learned thanks to my colleagues at the Potential Project, that company that I started with, I mentioned. Um, when I joined, then I was still working IT 4 days a week, and then more as a hobby, working with them more as a hobby. Really, I mean, it was being paid, but wasn't really relying on the income coming from that stream. And the more I engaged with my peers in that company, I realized that most of them, they had executive practice. They were executive coaches. Sorry, they have an executive coaching practice, and I realized they had this hybrid kind of career where they were teaching mindfulness in corporate, but they were also coaching execs. And to be honest, that's how kind of influenced me to start with Zen High Achiever, because at the time I was already teaching yoga, a couple of times a week at Fitness First. After working as a BI manager, governance manager, I would go change my gear and teach yoga. And I really enjoyed the teaching, the sharing, and helping people to have tools to help them to deal with stress and pressure. And I thought, well, that's so I was doing a little bit of health coaching, well, holistic wealth coaching in a way. And I thought, well, maybe that's something to aspire for. So I was heavily influenced by those peers, and then the last few years I've been moving more and more towards executive coaching. So answering your question, I would say it's probably a hybrid model. At least that's my experience, what I've seen people doing. So working as a mindfulness teacher or mindfulness mentor, but also having similar or integrated practices. And as you know, I teach at Monash as well, so I'm teaching professional development to master's students, and mindfulness is one of the components of positive psychology. So I combine that as well. So my career path is now very hybrid. Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing
Mm,
that.
pleasure.
Great. Well, those are my questions. Have you got anything else you would like to add around mindfulness for our audience?
Hmm. I guess I think I share a couple of things that I think are really important. One is the distinction into the formal and informal practice, and just a reminder that the ultimate goal is bring the mindful skills into daily life. This is very important, I guess. And the second one is the how to measure, are we making progress, how can we detect that we are making progress with our mindfulness practice. That's actually a question that I asked my teacher many years ago, and he said, if you are being less reactive and more responsive in challenging situations, so if you're having that 1 second to stop and decide how I want to react in this challenging situation instead of doing something and then regretting. Yes. So that's one. Second, it's are you becoming more kind, more compassionate to yourself and others? I think it's a good way to measure as well. And the third one, it's are you worrying less? Are you less fearful? Yeah, less worry and less fear happening. Yeah, I think those are good ways to measure progress. So that's probably the last thing, Sean, that I'd like to share. Mm,
That's really good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
welcome.
And great. So that's the end of our session. If there's any questions, please send them through. But Nat, thank you so much for your time today. That was really invaluable. And
Pleasure.
I personally know the benefits of mindfulness practice, or I'm learning them. So yeah, a big fan. So thank you very much, Nat.
My pleasure. Okay. Talk soon. So, bye everyone.
Sounds good.
Bye.